listening to Nightmare on Film Street. The current time is 6:66. Traffic is clear ahead from here to the afterlife, but it's hell outside. For the next hour, you're on Nightmare time. So, let's give a grave welcome to our hosts, John and Kim.
Hello again, fiends, and welcome to a very special Nightmare Alley edition of Nightmare on Film Street. I'm Kim.
I'm John.
And this week, we are talking to Jed Shepard and Gemma Hurley, writers and producers of Dashcam, in theaters now.
We talked about it a little bit in the What's Keeping Us Creepy last week, but Dashcam is Jed Shepard, Gemma Hurley, and Rob Savage's follow-up to Host. It's another found footage movie. This one's a live stream on Instagram and just like an absolute one night of hell, chaos kind of movie. If you're a big fan of Host and a big fan of Wreck, I think you're really, really gonna like Dashcam. It goes to some wild fucking places.
And definitely see this one in the theater if it comes near you. This is definitely one for an audience experience. We had so much fun seeing this at a film festival, and it got some fun reactions from the audience.
Oh yeah, so I was thinking you were talking just about the fact that like it's an Instagram live video more or less, and like there are lots of comments, and you know when it's on the big screen you can read them all. But you know you're absolutely right. Seeing this with a live audience is the way to see it. It's just as good at home, but it has some incredible gags and just some really. Man, we're trying not to spoil anything here. It's got some crazy shit that is great to hear an audience go, "Oh my god," while you're watching it. I guess is what I'm getting at.
But we got to sit down and chat with Jed Shepard and Gemma Hurley about the conception of the film and how Dashcam came to be.
Yeah, we don't really get into many spoilers, especially the end of the movie, which is fucking wild. We don't touch it at all, so we're keeping it spoiler free. But, you know, plot-wise, if you're unfamiliar with Dashcam, it follows a woman named Annie Hardy who has a show on Instagram Live called Bandcar. It's a character inspired by the real-life Annie Hardy who does Bandcar. It is not the real Annie Hardy. It is 100% a caricature of who she is in real life. But she goes to visit a friend in London in the height of lockdown, and she sort of steals his Uber Eats account and runs into some huge, crazy trouble when she picks up a passenger that is in distress. Is that the best way to describe it?
I think that is well done.
Yeah. I mean, you can watch the trailer. This passenger, it's like, this mysterious stranger with untold, maybe possible supernatural abilities. It's wild, guys. I think you're really going to like this movie. We've seen it a few times now, and we've had a blast with it every single time.
Yeah, and like their previous film, Host, it's got a tight run time, so you could see it 2 times in one night if you wanted to.
Yeah, we're gonna toss you over to the trailer, and then we're gonna get into our interview with Jed Shepard and Gemma Hurley. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Annie Hardy, and you're watching Bandcar. Another day in paradise. Hello?
Listen, I just need you to take my friend somewhere nearby.
This is Angela. Her and I taking a trip. Oh, did you find me? Oh.
Shit.
You should go see if she's alive.
Hello? Hello? She found us! She's here!
What? Hey, what was that?
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, what the Where are you going? Where are you going?
Right on. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about Dashcam.
Yeah, it's fun. Really exciting.
Such a wild ride of a movie. Holy shit.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, we think the exact same thing. When we first watched the kind of final cut, we were just like, holy moly, this is like the last 10 minutes of the host multiplied by like 7 times, like stretch out over 70 minutes. It is unrelenting.
Yeah, and last time we spoke, you had just finished Host. And shortly after that, it was announced that you guys would be making some movies with Blumhouse. Was this a movie that one of you had in your back pocket, or was this something that you all developed together?
It's a Jed thing.
Yeah. So in like 2017, I was staying at Annie Hardy's house. She's been a friend of mine for like nigh on 10 years now. And because she's in the band Giant Drag, and I was a big fan of Giant Drag, I know a lot of people in the kind of music scene in LA, even though I'm in London. And so yeah, it just ended up that we became friends, just because I find her absolutely hilarious. She's one of the sweetest women you'll ever meet as well. And I'm like, oh, I need someone to stay in LA, and she was like, just stay at mine. And I'm like, cool, I'll do that. She has a spare room, and she does the band car thing that you see in the film For Real. She does that every day. So I was on an episode of Band Car where she was rapping with people giving suggestions, the one-word suggestions, and I'm in the passenger seat doing the beats on the keyboard. And I'm like, this. And if you watch that, you can find that video online, by the way.
Oh wow!
And I was like, this is really cool. This should be a film. And I said to Annie, you've been doing this Band Car for like 8 years now. Like, it feels very cinematic because you're driving through this beautiful location, Los Angeles, sun's blazing, and you're rapping along, and people seem to be into it. And I was like, this will be a good idea for a horror movie, maybe found footage. So I took it to Rob, and I said, Rob, I've got this idea, Annie Hardy, Band Car, check it out. So I sent him a whole bunch of videos. And he was into it. He was into it straight away. Like that's the thing. Me and Rob have a bit of a sixth sense when it comes to like what ideas will catch. And then we developed it into a treatment. This was 2018, perhaps, and we pitched it around everywhere. It was around the same time as we released Salt, and there was a tiny bit of hype around us, and everyone said no, basically, because obviously this is a very strange concept to start with. Found footage. Nobody knew who Annie Hardy was in the film world, so nobody wanted it. And then obviously after Host, people's tunes have changed a little bit, and they were like, okay, that thing that you showed us years ago, let's explore that. And obviously because Gemma was brought on Host, it just felt natural to rope her into. We obviously asked her first, Gem, do you want to be involved in this absolute crazy nightmare? And and Gemma was essential to it being.
It was about a month after Host came out that you guys, like, Rob approached me and was like, hey, do you want to help us on movie 2? And it was kind of like, I don't even care what it is, man. Let's just do this shit. It was just so fun. It was like we were definitely on fumes probably of that whole sort of period of being very like, what's going on? Like, people have actually seen Host and liked it. Like, I was expecting like no one to see it whatsoever. So I think we were all just a bit like high on the joy of that. And that definitely fed into Dashcam.
That's cool. Yeah, because Host really hit hard and fast. Like, it was out and then everybody had seen it.
It's true. Like a week after Host came out, me and Rob were just sitting in this local cafe in South London, almost in silence, because we just didn't know what was going on, because we'd been making short films for like 8-9 years at that point, and to very little kind of fan. I mean, some people in certain circles loved it, but like the greater world didn't know who we are. And then we're sitting in this cafe looking up to the television, and we're on the news, and we're just like, what is going on now? What is happening? It's very, very, very
so
strange.
Surreal, yeah.
Well, that's because you didn't have Gemma. Like, that's the secret sauce.
That's as soon as she came along. Boom.
I'll take that. You can say that as many times as you want. I won't complain.
What was your reaction when they first showed you some of Annie Hardy's videos? Because the one thing we're not saying right now is that her improvised rap is like so crass and so filthy. What was that like when you first saw it?
Well, when I first was like, we're going to do this thing about Annie Hardy, and I was like, okay, like what? Like, just because she's a provocateur, like as a real person. Yes, of course, in Dashcam, we've definitely taken certain liberties, exaggerated her, made her like the negative version of truth. Yeah. But on the other hand, she is like probably one of the most unusual people that I've ever sort of met, I guess. Like, from her wide-ranging views, which we didn't even like scratch the surface of in this film, because it would just be about too many different things. To just her energy and her sort of her very sharp wits, like that was like very impressive straight away. I was like, holy shit, like this person is like a natural comedian. This is, but yeah, it was very just like, you just never really knew what to expect every time, you're on a Zoom or like listening to her like back catalogue of her own like Bandcast stuff or her other podcast she did. It was really just like, wow, this is such an interesting person. How the hell are we going to do a film about her?
And if I remember correctly, when you guys did host, you had more of a shorter script so you could allow the girls to do a lot more improvising and kind of reacting in the moment. Was that the same with Annie?
Yeah, I mean, I think this scriptment we call it. We stole the idea from Blair Witch Project. They did it first. So let's. But then basically this was double the size. And the thing is with Annie, you can't write things for her to say. She'll say what she wants to say. You can kind of point her in the right direction, just wind her up and let her go. But there's no way you can kind of script those things. You have to give her the space in order to improvise and do her thing. And that's the beauty of what Rob did. He just let her be herself, but to the nth maximum degree. And yeah, it's the authenticity of that, of letting people be themselves, that gives it that kind of fear, because in horror movies, especially in fan footage films, the more you create this authenticity and realness, the more you can be scared.
I was just going to say that was definitely one of the most challenging things. I think I had, Jed, I don't know about if you felt this as well, that in doing this project compared to Host, where it was like, 5 actresses who, they do this every day, whereas Annie isn't an actress per se. She's more of even though she has acted, she's more of a performer and a singer and all these things. And she is like a very unusual person in that sense. So I think very early on, there was a realization that happened where it's like, okay, we can't be that prescriptive about what's going to happen. It was more about like, oh, okay, let's hear, like observe and like see what comes from Annie and try and like make a film that is representative more of how she is, rather than trying to force something upon her to perform, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. And one of the, like with Host, we did a bunch of seances before we wrote it. And with this, do you remember, Gem, we did an escape room.
Oh, the escape room.
Hardy.
Yeah, that was like a moment. It was like, uh-oh. Not in a bad way, but it's just like, we've got to reframe some shit here.
Yeah. Because as soon as like Doug, our producer, or Rob said, we're going to do an online escape room on Zoom with Annie Hardy, knowing her for as long as I've known her, I'm like, this isn't going to work. And it was like one of the first times she'd met Amma, who plays Stretch as well. And we were all getting into it, trying to get out of this room and do the clues. And Annie was just walking around her house, cooking, playing with her cat.
Not interested.
There were like no stakes.
And that's a really good point, because some people, so I know we've gone off on a tangent here, but like some people have been like asked us about the mythology of the film, and like, they wanted to know more about like the bad, I mean, without spoilers, the bad negative thing that happens in the film, and they wanted to know about the mythology behind it. And it was like, well, we haven't included it in the film because Annie doesn't interest her. Like, so you just have to like do the film that is what she, like how she is, rather than try and be like, I'm going to be the Scooby-Doo detective and like figure out all the clues and things.
So with Blair Witch in mind, was she aware of all the scares that were coming, or did you kind of put some of them upon her just to see how she'd react to them?
I mean, obviously the kind of the general kind of forward motion of the film is all there in the scriptment. So she knew what was coming. She knew about the deaths. She knew what Angela was going to do approximately. And obviously, it's not just one take. Rob's doing lots of takes to get the best take. So yeah, she was fully on board. And like, that's the thing with these type of movies. You need to have a good sense of collaboration between everybody. And when you're doing like massive stunts, like you see in Dashcam, there can't be any like ifs, buts, and maybes. There has to be spot on, otherwise someone gets hurt. Yeah. So she definitely did know that things were going to blow up, things were going to float in the air.
Surprise!
People will be set on fire. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you, I love hearing that too, because I find that's something that gets lost in some found footage movies, where they don't hold true to the idea that like you are watching a person capturing something. Like you don't always see everything perfectly. It's however she sees it. Do you guys have an idea of, or do you have a what makes a good found footage movie? Do you have an opinion about what makes a good found footage movie?
Go on, Jed.
Yeah. I obviously have strong opinions on this. So like if you go back to the best one, which I think is the Blair Witch Project. I'm going to keep saying this word because it's very important for me in found footage films, and that's authenticity. So you need these characters to feel real, like you see in a Host. They use their real names. It's a real friendship, and in this, she does band car for real. It is Annie Hardy. She is the things that just her raps, the kind of rap she would usually do, having a sense of authenticity as the kind of skeleton to build upon is very, 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 very important. And obviously the other very major thing you need in found footage films is a reason for someone to be holding the camera at all times. If there's, and people will moan a lot. They go, oh, but she would drop the camera there. No, if you know Annie Hardy and if you've watched Band Car, she takes her phone everywhere. She's always taking videos of herself rescuing bees from swimming pools and things and puddles. It's just the kind of thing she does. So yeah, authenticity and a reason to be holding the phone or the camera equipment the whole time.
I think something that's important too in found footage is like the momentum has to come from the character, and Annie's really good about keeping the everything moving forward. Like she's very proactive in that sense of like she is making a show, so she wants to see where this is going.
Yeah, she's not a ditherer, and I think that's why we sort of wanted to have Stretch as a sort of maybe like an audience character as a counterpoint to her, who is a bit more of a sort of stereotypical, how to put it nicely, like, you know, like basically like who I probably would be in that situation, like a scaredy cat, ditherer, liberal, like I'm just not being able to make decisions, you know. But whereas Annie is just like, no, this is exactly what we're doing, like for better or worse. And that was quite important, I think, in creating some kind of dynamic tension for this film.
It's nice to have a proxy too in that scenario, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm totally Stretch.
yeah, we're all Stretch.
Exactly. But if you look at the comments, like the audience hates Stretch because they've come for chaos, and Stretch is like bringing the vibe down with his sense.
But Stretch is so sweet, though. I love that guy.
Yeah. I love Stretch.
Do you know Amar Patel as well, the actor who played Stretch?
Yeah, he's a friend. I met him on a podcast, actually, on Gemma Moore, who's in Host and Dashcam. She has a podcast, and I produced her first episode, and Amma was on it. We just became friends. And I think there was one point he was actually going to be in Host, but then we needed someone who can set themselves on fire, so we went with Teddy. But he was always in mind, and then when we realised that we needed a counterpoint to Annie, we needed someone beside her just to bounce off and to do the beats as well. Then he was by far the first choice, and now he's the co-lead in Willow for Disney Plus.
Shit. Whoa!
He's doing very well.
Good for him.
Yay, that's so exciting.
Yeah,
hopefully they let him mix some beats in Willow as well and rap.
I think so. I think there's a butt buffet scene at some point as well.
Warwick Davis in the buffet. Maybe not.
Oh, that's great. And Teddy also makes it. He also gets set on fire in this movie too, doesn't he?
Yeah,
that's our thing. We were just like, let's set Teddy on fire again, because so how did the writing process is? It's basically us on Zoom, and we're just pitching crazy ideas. So it's just like, okay, then the car crashes, then the guy goes through the window, he's all cut up, and then he gets set on fire. Then the car blows up.
Spoilers, Jed.
Yeah. This whole thing is spoilers. So then but we had that whole crash, and it was brilliant. But then now me and Rob have warped Gemma's mind. It was her idea, I believe, Gemma, correct me if I'm wrong, for them to be a married couple.
Oh yeah, I'm pregnant.
Yeah, and I was just it was just like, okay, this is brilliant. This is so sick.
Oh yeah,
and we've now fully warped Gemma's brain to be like mine and Rob's, because we were just like, Gem, like that's too far, Gem. That's way too far.
You got dark.
You've broken me. Yeah, you brought me on to like character relationships and structure, and now it's like
more shit. What more shit? Oozes. Yeah, fucking fountains of shit.
Yeah, the way that you reveal all the info there, like it just goes from bad to worse. Like it starts bad, gets worse, and then it just sinks. It's so good.
That's the whole movie.
Yeah.
Starts bad, gets worse.
Yeah, it's like a joke with a punchline that has like 10 tags after it. Like,
I like that quote though. Dashcam starts bad, gets worse. It's great.
So we talked briefly too about the chat and how they didn't like Stretch. How was the chat in writing it with the movie? Because the chat is pretty consistent throughout. I mean, there's some moments where, you know, the data kicks out, but it mirrors what's going on in like the audience opinion. So how was it writing the chat?
So the chat was written by a whole group of people. That was the producer Doug and Rob. It was basically them giving directions to a group of people to write the chat as if they're watching it for like the first time. And
oh wow,
and obviously and obviously there's a lot of in jokes and stuff in there. But like it's basically what the audience is saying. So if you're thinking something in your head, if you look at the chat, it's probably there. Someone has got that point of view as well. And that's where a lot of the exposition, if you are looking for exposition in the found footage film, that's where a lot of the exposition comes in. If you look at it, there's people giving theories. The actual storyline of Dashcam is there in the chat. You can see about what happens at the end, and there's breadcrumbs there. So yeah, it's interesting, and I know people who've gone to see it for a second time just so they can sit at the bottom left of a cinema, so they can just read the comments, so they can take it in. Actually, there's lots of Easter eggs they put in there.
The first time I saw it, we had to sit pretty close because we were at a press screening, and I got a little nauseous halfway through, and I was like, I'll just read the chat. I'm just gonna read the chat.
You're not the only one who's got nauseous. What was the thing about the guy at Prince Charles Cinema, Jed?
Yeah, the guy who runs the Prince Charles Cinema in London. He first of all said that Dashcam is the rowdiest film that's been there since Evil Dead in the 80s, which is great. But then during the screening at the London Film Festival, absolutely most rowdiest, amazing screening, he had to leave about halfway because he had to go and vomit.
Oh my! Be right back.
I love it. Yeah, that happened a few times actually. And then we had a screening on Friday where me and Doug did the intro. And a woman had to leave because she was feeling sick.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Do we feel proud of this? Is this something to put on a t-shirt? I don't know.
I think so. Because, I mean, I can kind of understand if you're not used to fan footage and the conventions of it, it can be a little disorientating, I guess, which is why I was always recommend if you're watching a fan footage film, including Dashcam, don't be too close because that will make you sick. And I get car sick as well. So I would say go towards the back and the middle, and then that's the best view for it.
Yeah.
Good tip.
We had the kind of cool experience. The first time we saw it was with press, and it was a very different reaction from when we saw it with like a film festival audience. And that's where we had like the crazy rowdy, like the whooping and hollering and the laughing.
Brilliant.
And it was night and day.
Oh yeah, the press audience was quiet.
Stony face.
And we were like,
I'm sure Tumbleweed went across. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. The press here are a lot more rowdy, so like come and see some press screenings here.
Yeah, that sounds like a good move. Yeah, did you ask how the audience reaction's been in Britain?
I have not.
How have the audience reactions been in Britain?
I think they've been much less polarized.
That's
I
good.
think when we originally aired, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, Jed, when we did the Toronto Film Festival.
Which these guys were at.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the one?
Yeah.
That was a much more polarized audience from what I could tell from online. But in England, it's much more, maybe it's because, of course, we have lots of problems in England, but I don't think it's as quite as, how to put it, polarized, but not to the extreme end, which I think is what's happened in America, especially over the last couple of years, and obviously 2017 onwards. But yeah, so I think maybe it's a little bit less of a triggering thing here as it has been for American audiences, which is quite interesting.
It's been, as far as I've seen, like just universally loved in over here in Europe. And obviously there are going to be a few people who just don't get it, and that's fine. But just in general, like the mainstream media over here have loved it. Like the BBC have made it their film of the week.
Right on.
Empire magazine, the biggest film magazine in the world, have claimed this Dashcam week. It's great. But
that
also,
bloody mainstream media. Whoa.
I know, right?
they love us.
Never trust the mainstream media lies. But the thing is, people over here are kind of rooting for us. That's how I feel. They've got our corner, so. You know, especially when it's like us against the world, like you can always count on the folks over here to just be like, yeah, like these guys are doing something different. So I love it. I love it. And the thing is, it's designed to be polarizing as well.
Yes,
so
we knew that. It wasn't. We weren't going in this like, oh, I wonder if people will find this troublesome, or like, you know, we went in going like, we're going to make a movie that like half the audience are going to love and half the audience are going to like hate, and we have to just accept that now and be wicked about it. So if anything, I've been more surprised that more people have like really embraced it. That's surprised me, just the amount of people loved it. And actually in the last, I would say 5 days, well, since the actual cinema release, the amount of people who don't like it or are offended by it has really, really, like, I don't see them anymore. It's because we're in our social media bubbles, Jen.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. But yeah, no, it's exciting that a film that is kind of designed to be polarizing is getting such great reviews and from the mainstream media.
I mean, hey, maybe over here it's just people raging against the Commonwealth. Like, how dare these Britain filmmakers?
Let it go, guys.
Right?
Yeah. You threw all of our tea into the river.
That was enough.
The cool thing though is that like Annie Hardy has like such a, or at least the character, I'm sure she's a sweet person, I haven't met her, but she has such a strong moral compass. At every turn, she's like, we gotta look after this woman. Something terrible's happening to her, and she really puts herself in harm's way to do the right thing,
or at least to finish the job.
Well, there's that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that like I said, like the Annie on screen isn't the Annie in real life, because obviously she's not. People, I've seen people say, "Oh, Annie is exactly like she is on screen." I promise you, she's not going around fighting demons every day. If that's what you think, cool. But I promise you, she's not doing that.
But she does have a really strong moral code, Annie, for sure. Like, she doesn't sort of, she really cares about people. Is my experience of her. You'd know more, Jed.
Yeah, like she's the only person I know that drives around giving bags of food to homeless people. Like, I don't do that. I'm not as good as Annie Hardy, but she does that. And again, she cares about animals very much, and and she doesn't vote for Trump as well. That's a fabrication that we put
was
in.
it Kanye she voted for? I can't remember.
It
wasn't Trump.
Which is probably worse, to be honest.
Yeah, but that sums her up, isn't it?
I would totally believe that.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm going to do the thing that no one else is doing. Like, that's her, rather than, what was that quote she said? It was something like both sides of what was it, shitbird or something?
Yeah, the different wings on the same shitbird or something.
With politics, something like that. Yeah. So she doesn't subscribe to anything in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely what made the reactions at the Toronto International Film Festival so weird, because it's like they really felt like they were attacking her specifically. But, but I think.
Well, I can't watch Star Wars because I don't agree with Vader's politics either. So I understand what they mean.
I think it's especially fitting for a found footage film too, to have a character that doesn't fit in that cookie cutter of the typical hero you see, or like you support everything that they believe or everything that they're saying, because found footage is supposed to be a real person. You're supposed to be following real people in the real world and how they interact with it, and that's what feels so authentic, like you were saying about this movie, because she was just filming her regular show and then something fantastical happened enough for the whole world to be watching.
Yeah, horror happens to everyone.
I think that's such an interesting point, Kimmy, because it's what I found really interesting, and I take myself in this, because writing this, like, I didn't know Annie, and obviously she has lots, not obviously, she has lots of different views to me, sure. But like by making this project, like I couldn't be in, you really had to write it. You couldn't judge someone else, even though that is, I think we all do that now. We all very like, we have to pick a side and have these like preconceived judgments. And I think people have that going into seeing a person like Annie, who does have these like views which are extremely different from their own. And I think what's been interesting to me is seeing how so many people have been like, I wanted her to die, like, or like right at the beginning, they were like, this person's got to die. And whether or not she does or not, whatever happens on her journey, I would hope that some people by the end might feel differently about that by spending time with her with the person you wouldn't necessarily in your day-to-day life.
That's the thing. If the lead was a guy,
that's a good point.
A deplorable guy with no redeeming features, people would be okay, cool. This is like a normal film. But because it's a woman, I think people have an issue with that because it's someone who doesn't really have any redeeming features when we first meet her. And it's difficult for some people to set their mindset right, to kind of follow this character who, she's saying some absolutely disgusting things. But I think by the end of it, it's a little bit of an insight into someone who has a different view from you. And it also teaches you, hopefully, a lesson that even though someone has a completely different view from you, they're still a person and they still can be a good person too. And they can still have value in the things they do and say. And we live in our own bubbles, don't we? Especially on social media, where everyone who we follow are just people that agrees with our point of view, because we would either block or mute or don't follow the people that don't agree with us. And that's not a way to live. That's not real life, because in the street you can't just pre-select everyone you're going to kind of see walk past you. So that's the beauty of found footage. We're putting you into a situation where this protagonist is completely different from 99% of the horror loving audience, and we're making you sit with her for the entire time. So the real horror isn't just what's happening on screen, it's what's happening in your head. For sure.
Oh wow, that's a good point.
I think it would be different. I think everyone's got their own line, right? And I think it would be very different if Annie Hardy was a person who was like out there inciting racial hatred or like anything horrible, like anything morally like absolutely, but it's just, she just has different views about subjects rather than about anything, like, in my opinion, that's my impression of her anyway. And I think that's kind of where the line is for me, at least. So yeah, it's very interesting. And I think you're right, Jed, about the fact that she's a woman. And I think, especially in horror, we're kind of trained about the type of female that is allowed to be a hero in a horror film. Like, even if it's an anti-hero, they have to subscribe to a certain type of, whether they're the virgin, the geek, the pure one. But if you're impure in any way, you have to be punished. And we're trained to do that. So it was definitely a challenge to try and subvert our expectations there. And it is uncomfortable. It's meant to be.
Yeah, and that's the thing with horror. It's not meant to be comfortable. It's not meant to be safe. You're meant to feel uncomfortable in your skin. You're meant to leave it thinking. And I think what Dashcam has done, I think, really well, is created this interesting discourse about can a person who you hate so much be the lead in a film that you love? And it seems to be the case. It was kind of like masochistic. I sat in this podcast after a screening of Dashcam and watched these three lovely journalists discuss Dashcam in front of me. And I was trying to kind of like hide down in the audience because I didn't want me to influence the things they say. But like they just said, and honestly, they said great things and they got it. And I feel like it made me feel like justified in the actions that we took in making this. And obviously this film is going to be for everyone and everyone's entitled to their own opinion because it's a free world. But I think if just for one instance you empathize with someone who has different points of view from you, then we've done something interesting.
Totally. And hey, no matter what anybody says and no matter what they feel about the movie, I think we can all agree best closing credits of 2022. I don't think anybody's going to top it. Whose idea was it to get Annie Hardy to wrap the credits?
It's probably Rob's, wasn't it?
I think we all came to that kind of conclusion. I think it was kind of organic, but it wasn't meant to be for like 10 odd minutes. The initial idea was for her to do the first few, to do us basically, me, Rob, Doug, and Gemma and herself, and then for it to go to like full normal credits. So that was a Rob idea to have it going for so long. It worked so well.
We had a adhere to a runtime, didn't we? It's a like.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing that we could all high five you guys for. Like, you make short to the point movies that just like you don't waste time. You get right to it, and you only give us exactly what's needed. I'm so happy that it wasn't. I'm so happy that not everybody wants to make a 3.5 hour movie. So thank you very much for that.
Me too. Me
Exactly.
too.
And you know what? It makes it really rewatchable, because I've seen people even go to the cinema multiple times to watch it because it's so quick and you can fit it in between other things. And that's the same with Host. It was like thoroughly rewatchable because it was only 56 minutes, and this is like 72.
We like to ask everybody. We've asked you guys this question before too. If you could play any two movies at the drive-in, what would you play? It could be movies that you'd pair with Dashcam, or just movies that you've always wanted to watch with an audience. Now that we can finally, have live audiences again.
Oh, are we gone?
Oh no, you're back again.
Sorry, I talked over you. You dipped out and came back in.
So it's two films that we picked for a drive-in, maybe to pair with Dashcam. Well, Host and Dashcam obviously work really well together because there's some connective tissue there. But like, I would go for Night of the Comet, my favorite movie, as you guys already know, and then maybe Blair Witch Project, just because I love.
Yeah, those are good choices. I was going to go for Blair Witch. Oh gosh.
Jem, what would you?
I was going to go for Blair Witch, and then I was trying to think of another really good like road trip horror film, but nothing's coming into my head. Maybe like, I guess Creep is pretty fun. That's like one of my favorite found footage movies. If you want to go along that, I love that film.
It's so good.
Oh, I've got another one. So if I discount Night of the Comet because it's too obvious, it'll be Blair Witch Project, and then this new film that's coming out on Shudder called Deadstream. Have you seen Deadstream,
it's
guys?
It's so good.
What is it?
It's a found footage film. This husband and wife team made it. The director, but they also have the actors in it as well. And I make a cameo at the end of the movie.
Do you? You're lying.
Yeah, and they're they made this because they're Host fans. They made Deadstream.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Okay, now I need to see it.
You need to watch it, Jem.
And they're two live stream movies, though. That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it so much because it gives you this false sense of safety, because you think, okay, I know where this is going. A little bit like Dashcam. You're like, I know where this is going. And then it gets absolutely bananas towards the end. And I'm just like, yeah, this is absolutely my jam. Those guys are going to go far.
Awesome.
Yeah, they're a great duo too. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. This was a blast as always. I don't know if we should say happy spookies, but happy spookies,
Happy spookies!
Happy spookies and a butt buffet to everybody.
Hashtag buffet, yeah.
Thank you again to Jed Shepard and Gemma Hurley for joining us on the show today. Dashcam is playing in select theaters right now. Might be playing at your local multiplex. Might be playing at your local cool fucking theater, right?
Go to the cool one.
Yeah, all the cool theaters are playing this. Which is to say, if your theater's not playing this, it's not cool. I don't make up the rules.
You can tweet at us and let us know what you thought of Dashcam on Twitter at NOFS Podcast. You can find us in our Discord, where we are most often. That is at nofspodcast.com/Discord.
If you like this episode, please consider supporting Nightmare on Film Street by joining the Nightmare on Film Street Fiend Club at nofspodcast.com/Fiend Club. This week, we're releasing a bonus episode, a drive home from the drive-in review of David Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future, also playing in your local cool movie theater. If you want to hear our full thoughts on that and all the weird fucking sex surgery, human organ evolution, plastic-eating stuff that happens in that movie, you gotta listen to this episode.
Man, the theaters are bumping this week.
Yeah, I know, right? Just the weirdest movies. But until next time, I'm John.
I'm Kim.
Stay creepy.
It appears you made it out alive, but we'll get you next time. Help us to grow the horde. Leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you subscribe. More terror can be found lurking on our website, nofspodcast.com. Until next time, stay creepy, fiends.